So, and once again, I've forgotten, but I think it's episode 15.
Is it? Are we at episode 15
I
already?
think,
Woo!
you know, and we're up to, just on Osha, we're up to about 700 downloads
Really?
of our podcast.
Menopause
podcast.
Bad, is it?
That's just on the main platform, so I don't know what the stats are like on the other.
Because we don't really do anything to put it. You know what I mean? That's all right.
We're okay.
There's the
Two
odd
menopausal women in the mountains doing all right, really.
If there's the odd lady listening to it and it helps a wee bit, then
the
that's
odd
good.
lady and a wee bit. I love it. I love your Scottish. Do you know what? It makes me feel really cozy. You're like at home, little Scottish.
I've lost my Scottish accent.
You have not.
Do you not think so?
No.
I used to have a much stronger when,
Well,
when I was in Scotland. When I go back, like if you hear my mum speak or my brother, it's nothing like how I speak.
Well, someone said to me the other day in the stables, they said, "You don't have an accent when you speak in English, do you?" And I said, "No, I don't." Because I was brought up by my parents.
I think you've got a posh
English accent. Yeah, my parents would be very proud of that, actually. I think
very posh.
But my parents are from the heart of kind of Solihull, Kidderminster, Birmingham, all of that area. And my grandmother and my aunts and my grandmothers even had very strong accents. So my grandmother would greet me like this. She'd go, "You're right. Would you like
that's
a piece?"
Birmingham, isn't it?
Yeah. You know,
you don't have a Birmingham.
I don't. No. But I can do it. I could do a really good Birmingham accent. Really, really good one. And then on the other side, my other grandmother and my uncle, even today, has a very strong Bromsgrove accent, which is really rural like that.
Oh,
it's like listening to the Archers. You know,
that's like Grumpy
and
Cider.
And he does this, my uncle, because he worked in a factory all his life, so he doesn't speak very well. So he goes, "Really new garden."
Oh, it's like it's like that Jeremy Clarkson's farm and the guy on that.
Gerald. Gerald. So Gerald is like my Uncle Stuart.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And he's like, the tempest is coming and I've been in the garden, you know. And to the extent that my children act a bit like Jeremy Clarkson when, say, if I phone my uncle up and I have a whole conversation, they do not know how I understand what you're saying. It's because I grew up with it. You know, my granddad spoke like that because he was in a factory as well. My gran spoke like that. They just speak like that, you know. That's what, and I just grew up with it. So but you just piece bits together, right?
Yeah, you kind of guess. That you can kind of work out what's being said. I had a whole
conversation with him recently about the fact that he's diabetic now and he has to have injections and this, that, and the other, and that I'd send him some biscuits for his birthday, and I thought it's maybe not the right thing to have sent, you know, because full into your diabetes. And he said, "Oh no, that was really good in the morning. I had to get up at 5 o'clock because the lambs were going over there. I had a biscuit and it was fine." And my girls are like, "What the hell did you just say?" I said, and then afterwards I had to translate everything.
Oh, bless him. Well, that's the same with the Scottish, isn't it? When Rabsy Nesbitt used to be on the telly, it had subtitles. Subtitles. Because people anyway,
diverted. So for those who are watching on the YouTube, and we're debating whether to carry on the YouTube, but we have this.
Look at this.
Look at the new microphone. We'll do a photo for the podcast because it's rather.
Now, what do you make of that, then, ladies?
Rather special. I don't know what you're thinking, but I know what I'm thinking.
It's enough just to make us
smile.
Color.
And maybe the color. You know, it's maybe the color. I'll put it down so it doesn't affect the audio too much. But
anyway. We're all gadgeted
up because we're trying to get better quality in the sound and things, aren't we? And we wanted to talk about something we're really excited, actually. I think this is going to be really cool.
It is going to be really cool.
We have a theme for this summer and for this podcast. So This Is Me. Now, if you know The Greatest Showman, and Jill and I love The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Oh, it gets me. It gets me. That music, the storyline, everything.
Everything is brilliant. And actually the words in the whole of that song are incredible. Have you ever seen the video when the choir or all the singers are rehearsing
in the room, and then she stands up and they all it's amazing.
I get goosebumps.
I used to play that on repeat. But so good. The words, that song and the message and the lyrics, it just fits, we thought anyway, it fits really nice with the work we do and our message,
all the work that we do,
everything across the board.
Now my girls said to me this, both of them separately, "Oh, it's such a mum song."
And
I don't care, firstly, but I think it is. I think it really speaks
I thought about
to
that because you told me this,
era.
and I think I was thinking about that, and I think, yeah, they're right, because they are I would have said the same thing when I was their age. They are at a very different stage
in their life.
We are, as middle-aged women, at that stage where we are embracing, this is me. We're no longer care about trying to be like everybody else. Whereas they are at that stage where it's actually, we're not very cool as we do what, you want to be liked by everybody. You want to be cool.
Do you still want to be liked by everybody?
I think they do at that age.
Oh, they do.
They do at that age because it's important.
Yeah.
Like we did. I was sort of thinking about it almost, about all species really. When you're in those teenage or younger adolescent, you're hormonal, your role, your goal is to attract your mate. You know what I mean? It's all about image. It's all about, puffing out your chest and preening your feathers. And it's not about going, okay, this is me, warts and all the quirky bits. It's about putting the good side forward, isn't it? So that's where they're at.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, sod that. I've done that for the better part of 30 years now.
Yeah.
I want to just forget about all of that.
I've brought those hormonal children up.
I've done my job there, and now it's me. It's my time.
There's a very funny, I don't know if she's a comedian or an actress or what, but she's a French lady, and she's got like a kind of hijab on, and I don't know if she's put that on as an outfit or if that is her dress. And she had this whole sketch recently. She said, we need to, obviously it's in French, but you need to start looking at the animal kingdom for examples of how to live in your couple. And she goes through all these, she picks out like animals and the way that they act and they do things. And she comes to like the seahorse or something. So the seahorse, the male seahorse carries the baby. The male seahorse carries the baby. So if he can carry the baby, all of that time, you can at least book a restaurant. She does stuff like that. So she keeps picking things out. And she's obviously like really cross with her own husband, just going, you can obviously do the dishes. If he can do that, you can do the dishes. It's just brilliant. It's really well done.
But I do find myself looking at other animals and kind of, compare. We've gone a little bit squiffy, but I don't think you can really get away from the fact that we are animals underneath.
We are, except this leads me on to something that I wanted to bring up with you, and I haven't chatted to you about this before, but this came up on my my feed recently, and I thought, that's so good. And it's this woman who's interviewing men, I think in the film industry. They seem to all be Dutch for some reason. She's not, but anyway, there's one American in the mix. And she asks them questions. They don't know what the questions are going to be. They think it's a normal interview. And it kind of is to a certain extent. But the questions that she's asking them are based on what women have experienced for years in society, but also in the film industry.
Right.
So it would be questions like this. Have you ever been asked to just sit in a meeting and look pretty?
Oh, wow.
That's a good one. Do you think that you got the roles that you've got or the positions that you've got in this industry because of your looks?
Right.
Things like this. And after a while, the answer's like, I see where you're going with all of this. I hear what you're saying. And one of the men actually says, and I have a daughter who's coming to teen years. And he said, and this keeps me up at night because I don't think that she's getting an equal shout at the market, at the industry, at society, because no matter what we try and do, there's such a weighted stigma for women. I'm sticking to women just because this is the pause.
When I hear you say that example, and this is maybe I'm a bit, I don't want to get some feminist berating,
and I'm not feminist. I'm putting it out there, but I do
think in many ways pretty women sometimes have an unfair advantage for that. Like I can say I've never been given anything, you know, even like at school or anything like that. I was never one of the pretty ones that was picked because you were pretty or you were popular or anything like that. But I have friends who were. Now, don't get me wrong, they are brilliant, successful women in their own right. But the fact that they were drop dead gorgeous did also help. They got, you know, and so, yes, I'm sure it works negatively. But then I'm sure they've also been on the receiving end of lots of good stuff. But then do you then not
think that when you hit the menopause and your looks,
you can rely less on that kind of stuff,
and they have things.
You have to connect with the essence, the sort of who you are as on the inside, as opposed to the aesthetic stuff on the outside, don't you?
Exactly. And this comes otherwise you go right back into the this is me. And I think that very often when you have had that superficial layer, or you've been blessed with wonderful looks, and that has helped you in life, and we're not judging on that. That's not what the point of this is.
At all.
But
it may
when you hit the menopause, I think it must be harder. And when you get to that point, then like you know, the bloom of youth,
when your looks have been rightly or wrongly a huge part of your identity, then the changes in menopause must hit harder. I mean,
now I didn't, so I'm going to come back to that a little bit, because when I was in the teenage years, I was very, very big. I was huge, and I'm not going to go into how I lost the weight, why I lost the weight afterwards, but I was a big girl. And so all of that time in my life, I didn't get chosen because of looks, ever. And I think that holds you in good stead somehow, because
I know what you mean.
And because you have to develop a different way of impressing people. Now, I did choose comedy as a route,
which many people do.
Yes, humor. I did. I was the clown in many situations, and a little bit like we've talked about before, the party girl. But in work and in university, and then in business, it was my personality and I'm not going to say intelligence, because that's a very subjective kind of word, but my perceptiveness and my ability to get a point across in a very specific way, to the extent that I was in sales. I was a sales director, and many of my biggest clients would say things like, oh yeah, but you're not sales, you don't sell. It's like, no, of course not. No. You know, we're just managing the business needs here. And of course, then they'd be signing huge contracts with massive commission checks.
Sales very well.
So it
was your character traits as opposed to your looks.
Exactly. But anyway, so coming on to this is me. So we suddenly had this idea, because we love this song, right? I actually got the most likes and views in recent history, I think, for me dancing in my kitchen
with this,
and it came on the radio, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna
it's very us. It's very us.
And it is very us,
because that is everything that we do. It's all about encouraging
being you,
middle-aged women, to just embrace who we are.
And I love what you wrote on Facebook recently. You wrote this whole thing, and I know you're going to write more, but you preempting the retreats this summer.
Yes.
And I loved it, because it was all about middle-aged women coming on this weekend exploration, shedding some layers,
reconnect with who they are,
and getting confidence back in who they are. I think that was incredible, even just for me to see last summer when I dropped into your retreat. That was lovely to see the positive energy, everyone just giving everything a go. And just
because these retreats take place in the mountains, in the French Alps, where we live. So it's obviously it's a beautiful place in terms of connecting with self and things like that. The environment, I can't think of a better environment, really. I mean,
nothing against Reading, but it's not Reading, right?
And then you come away, these women all left their jobs and their families and everything, just came out for a weekend of didn't know what to expect, just for them. And then we go with you, especially, we won't give it all away, but there's beautiful workshops and everything, all designed to help these women connect with who they are inside.
And each person will have like an experience and take away an experience, and it could be just a tiny little leap, or it could be a huge one. I think that's a really nice way to
everybody left and said in their way, to them, it was life-changing. Maybe it was something small, and maybe it was something big, but they all left changed.
Is it Janet who put the comment, mortgage the house?
Yeah, do whatever you gotta do, because it was life-changing. Because she's a really, Janet, you know, we've all got our story. Janet's very open about hers. I mean, she's a wonderful friend, a wonderful coach, but she's very open about her story. And trauma in her life made her, she's a worrier, you know, she always worries about the what if. And her word, I believe, that she wanted to embrace was content, but that was a word that was hard for her, because it's just not her natural nature.
So what would be her natural? Well, it's not her natural. It would have been what she got used to being natural, I presume.
Yeah.
What was that then? Was that there was always more? There's more to have, or there's more to be, or if she can't be content?
No, it was the opposite. I think it was it content or serene? I can't remember which one was her word, but she just wanted to be present with and in the moment, and content with what she has, because she knows she's lucky, you know, but it's just that it's the primitive part of our brain, isn't it? It's the protective thing, all because of past trauma, always looking out for what could go wrong, always trying to ensure, you know, not being content with what you've got, even although you've got abundance, because there were times in her life when she struggled. It's like, right, okay, but this could get taken away from me at any point, so I've got to always be, you know, that kind of thing. Yes. Our few days in the mountains, she left, and there you just saw this difference in her. It was like,
what did she do when, if it's not too personal to share, and you might not know, but what did she do when she got back that she maybe wouldn't have done?
She did share, and I can't remember it wasn't so much, I don't think, about doing anything differently, because bless her, she's always very good about pushing herself out of her comfort zone, and doing and challenging herself and doing exciting new things. But it was always a battle. It was a mental battle, because she was up against fear the whole time. And she just found that there was a lot less fear. There was just like, she was willing to just give things a go and embrace. And she's since opened, she's based in America. This is a different thing, but Janet made the decision to go alcohol free, to give up alcohol quite a long time ago, because of history and stuff in her family and things like that. But she's always felt a little bit of a misfit, because she didn't really have anybody in her circles that, you know, had made similar choices. She has just recently started a movement in America. She's bringing other women together who are also on the same alcohol-free journey. They're having meetups, they're going on adventures, they're doing all sorts of stuff that she'd wanted to do for a long time. But again, the fear was getting in the way, that, oh no, nobody will want to do that. She just went for it, and she's got hundreds of women in there now.
That's incredible. This is really interesting, this idea of the fitting in, and when you don't, you know, how do you live with that? Because it does put you on a different kilter, doesn't it? It is quite hard, in not just with that alcohol, but with many life decisions. You know, I often felt when I was younger, particularly when I came out here, that everything I was doing was like against the tide, and I was constantly not like a kind of misfit, etc.
And that's hard,
you know. Even just this week, so we've talked about, you know, my horse and things, and I've fallen off my horse really badly this week, and I made a decision not to do jumps anymore, and not to put that into the mix of everything that that is part of my horse and my journey. And I said to my teacher, my coach at the stables, I said, I'm really tired of just being a kind of misfit and doing something different to everybody else. So I'm not putting myself in that class anymore, because either you'll give me things that are different to do, or I just won't be able to do them, because at this time in my life, this is not right for me. It's not aligned for me, and I don't want to do it anymore. I have to sit firm in who I am and what my journey with this horse is all about, you know. And I think that's
but that's very much fits in with the "this is me" thing, isn't it?
Because it does,
as human nature, it is human nature to want to belong. You know, we all have that drive, we all have that need. But I think as women especially, we often mold and shape ourselves and do things
all the
that
time.
are uncomfortable and not really in aligned with who we are and our strengths and our values. But we do it in an attempt to belong. But in actual fact, what I think the retreats that we're going to be running are going to do, and the one that we did last year very much showed women that actually the way to really belong, the only way you can really belong, is when you are yourself, when you take the mask off and you let people see the real you. Okay, there will be people out there that don't gel with that, but they're not your tribe.
They're not your tribe.
But to find that true connection and that true sense of belonging, you have to allow yourself to be seen, don't you?
To be seen. I think that's
and
it.
Not pretending to do things that just aren't you and they don't align with you.
There's an incredible guy on the Instagram who used to be a model many moons ago, maybe 20 years ago or so. And he had long blonde hair, and he's from London. And he's lost all his hair now. So he's got this really wacky hair. He's dyed blue, but there's only bits of it left now. He's hilarious on Instagram. He's really funny.
Do you know his name?
I can't remember his name. I'll find it. He's brilliant. And he starts all of his things with bonge, which is bonjour, but in his way. And he's got this really posh voice. He's really funny. And he's a total misfit in many ways, and yet so not. But he comes out with gems because he's become now a coach over the years. I think he's retrained, etc.
I'll have to have a look.
He's brilliant. And he comes out with this bonge. But he came out with some brilliant ones recently. And he said, first, this one I loved. He said, "You are a beautiful sculpture and a piece of art, just continually forming itself into new shapes."
Oh,
that's so
like
good,
that.
isn't it?
I like that.
Then he came out with this other one and he said, as soon as you realize that you actually have everything that you need in you already,
and you've always have had it,
you stop searching and you live in abundance, and anything that you might experience or have on top of that is just a bonus.
My big thing at the moment is the realization that when I'm content in myself, and by that I'm not meaning I don't suddenly think I'm perfect, but if anything, the complete opposite.
What is perfect?
I'm accepting of who I am, all the imperfections. When I'm like that, I am so less judgmental of other people and other women. A lot of the criticism I had and the judgment, I think when I find myself projecting that on others, when I find myself going, "Ooh, like what?" It's usually because I'm not loving myself. And my big thing at the moment is, when that realization, actually, Jill, you don't need anything else. You have everything, and you always have had everything that you need to be happy within you. Then I immediately stop being jealous and critical of other people.
It's so interesting, isn't it? It's all a question of perception.
But we've gone off on a tangent.
We're going to bring it back into the idea that this is me. It's going to be a retreat this summer at the end of August. So we're planting the seeds now. If you fancy it, in the mountains.
It is aimed middle-aged women. Especially,
we're being very specific with our dynamic, our target market. What do you call that as a target market?
But you wouldn't really want to come on one of our retreats if you were anything other than
a middle-aged.
You definitely wouldn't want to be there if you were a middle-aged man.
Get it? No. I don't think you get it. I don't think you get
women.
I don't think you get anything out of it necessarily. Well, maybe you would, but maybe not as much as if you're in that phase.
But who feel that they're ready for their time. They are ready to embrace the whole concept of this is me.
There you go. That's all
maybe
you need to know.
A little bit of help. Getting clarity on that. empowerment. I think there's a lot of that happens in that retreat.
That's how we started this Lepause Menopause journey.
Yeah.
Feeling quite empowered women as we were walking to and from the toilets.
Yeah.
For the half marathon.
But we were empowered about that. We were embracing the fact that we needed to pee 50 times, and we weren't apologizing for that.
Exactly. And I'm just going to finish on this then in that case, because you ran a race this week and you had your photo taken with a man in underpants.
I did. And I had no qualms about going up to him. I said, please make a 50-year-old woman happy. And he said, yes, with pleasure. And there you go.
And there you go.
I was sitting there with my bandana, smiling, grinning like a cat.
She was.
And he was in his pants. And I thought, yeah, that was a this is me moment.
My first question wasn't necessarily about, you having a photo taken. Why was he running a race at the end of a day in the mountains?
Because that goes back to what we were saying about your teenage your girls who are in their prime. He was too. He was in there prime. Thinking, right, I know, way to get attention whilst I'm running this race is to run in a pair of multicolored pants.
Do you think he got cold?
He got very cold, because I saw him probably at about 8K running down the hill, right. And we all started going, oh, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I just need to go and get some clothes on now. The fun had ended. It was dark. He was freezing. He needed clothes.
Yeah, the originality of it.
The bravado had worn off.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, yeah,
you need to go and get a jacket.
Whereas us middle-aged women that were all wrapped up warm, I was fine.
Having a hot flush. Not necessarily because he was in his pants.
No.